Hello, hello, hello. Today I'm talking with Jenna Charlton. We talked about the link between punk rock and testing, having bonus grandparents, and finding what matters faster.
I'm Ivanul from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you liked today's interview, don't forget to click it. Hello everyone, and hello with me I have Jenna. Is that how I should pronounce your name?
It is.
All right. Uh, and Jenna wrote, did one thing wrong on my computer. One of the things I want to show who's at the start is I'm recording this from Belgium in Ghent, and we're going completely to Cleveland in the USA, I would say.
Yes, right on Lake Erie.
Right. The goal is, of course, not to show the exact location. That we don't want to help stalkers with that, but just to give some idea where in the world we are. And on my side, it's 5 6 minutes after 5 in the evening on a Saturday. What's the time on your side?
It is 11 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday.
11. So I'm calling you from the future. That's a little bit
Yes.
what's
And I'm
happening.
sorry, we have a visitor.
And we have a visitor already. We have a visitor. What's the name of the visitor?
His name is Milton.
Hello, Milton. Jenna, before we start into the questions, what is something that you want people to know about you?
Oh,
How would you
goodness.
introduce yourself?
So I always say that I love punk rock and pro wrestling and software testing. Those are my big things. And cats, because, as you can see.
And is there a link between punk rock and software testing, for example?
In some ways, because punk is definitely about doing things in your own way, and not necessarily in that way just to be rebellious, but in that way because it works for you and because it's what feels right and it's what serves you best. And when we think about testing, we're thinking about not necessarily following rules. We're thinking about doing things that are sometimes outside of the box, doing things that advocate for users and experiment. And that does mean sometimes bucking the system and breaking convention and trying things in new ways. But ultimately, it's for the same end, which is for the greater good.
All right, I like that. I like that. Yeah, I could imagine that between wrestling and testing, I could see more links because yeah, sometimes that's what we do with software. But I really like your way of comparing punk rock with testing as well. I really like that. It's
My very first talk was actually called "How Pro Wrestling Made Me a World Champion Tester."
Wow, that's a way to start. That's a nice one. You should definitely, if there is a link online somewhere to that presentation or something, I would love to add it to the show notes. It's really a cool way to come in.
I will send it over to you. It is really immature. I've changed a lot since then, but it is still a fun talk.
Well, that yeah, the if of course if you look back at anything you do 6 months later, if you're not unhappy in one way or another, you haven't learned anything. So
It's true.
it's very natural that sometimes we look back at our earlier steps somewhere where we say, ah, do I really want? But yes, it also shows the progress of who you are or where you came from and having that. So yeah, I think that's important. And talking about where you came from, let's see what is something that people usually don't know about you, but has influenced you in who you are.
Ooh, I feel like people know a lot about me. Okay, so this is like a fun personal fact that some people know. I had bonus grandparents growing up. These were some really close friends of my parents, and they were communists, like legitimate communists. And they had, Milton, get down. They had a really strong influence on my sense of justice and my sense of right and wrong, and really taught me to care deeply about the well being of other people and that we need to put the good of everyone above our own wants and needs. Not necessarily needs, but our own wants. And that means sometimes that we take less so that everyone else can have what they need. So they were a huge influence on me in my personal ethics, in the way I work, in what I believe about software. Um, every day I like could think back to things that they taught me and reflect on them and see how it's really changed the way I thought about something that day. Um, yeah, so they were really important to me. Not a lot of people know about them.
Hmm. And how did they come into your life? Because yeah,
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Well, we'll just let him stay there.
yeah.
Um, so he's a baby still, he's real active. Um, so my mother taught, and the title is no longer like correct. The titles have changed for early childhood disabilities, but she taught autistic and autistic like early childhood, which means that she worked with kids who were autistic, intellectually disabled, sometimes behavior handicaps. And Ruthie, who was, it was Ruth and Jack, Ruthie was a sub in her classroom. And Ruthie did a lot of really cool things. Like she set up a co-op, the first co-op daycare program in the city of Cleveland, all sorts of interesting things. But she subbed in my mom's classroom and they became really close friends. And then my mom brought her around to tutor me. I didn't read until
Mm,
like fourth grade. Um,
mm,
could be because I was learning disabled, may have also been because I have really, really bad vision. And when I was a kid, they didn't have the tools to figure out what a kid's vision needs were. You had to be able to say it and really can't express it until you're a little bit older. So
mm.
it took a long time until I could really see the board and see the book and stuff because I didn't know how to explain what I could and couldn't see. Um, but she tutored me and just became a really close family friend. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the way you express. Yeah, my partner is working with people who have autism and have some disabilities or other challenges. So yeah, well, that doesn't mean I know much about it because of course it's her job, not my job. But yeah, I joined it in some moments when there were activities for families and stuff like that. So and I know how hard that work is because it's a lot harder than anything I do. And a lot more important in a way because you're working with people who have a lot of hard time in yeah, getting to life or finding life and their parents I would say because it is extremely hard for their parents typically as well.
Yeah.
That's and so they in that sense they came into your life
Mhm.
and at what age was that? Was that then I hear
Oh,
because they helped you learning reading? It was already when you were 3 4 years. Is it?
I would say that I met Ruthie and Jack probably when I was in kindergarten or first grade. I really don't remember a time that they weren't part of our lives. So it was pretty early. But it was after we moved back to Cleveland, after my parents divorced. So I would have had to have been at least 5. But yeah, we're going way back. I couldn't even tell you exactly when I met them.
But yeah, that's while I was asking the question, I thought, okay, probably if it's 3 4, you don't remember exact ages when people supporting people come into your life. But and you still have contact with them at this age?
Oh, they've passed. But um, gosh, probably I think Ruthie passed probably close to 15 years ago, and Jack had Parkinson's, so he passed probably 20 years ago. I'm older than I look. Um, so it's been a while. And they were older when I met them. So, they were genuinely my grandparents' age.
But you kept in touch
Oh
until
yeah.
they died.
I
So
kept in touch
really,
until they passed. Yeah, I visited them every couple of weeks. Um, yeah, they were
so it really felt like real grandparents where
oh
you
yeah,
yeah you kept in touch.
absolutely. They were the bonus grandparents and they were part of the family. We Passover, the high holy days, they were there.
Yeah, I can imagine. No, so that's really nice to have yeah an extended family to take care of you. I would say
Yeah.
So that's I can imagine that that can have a huge impact, especially when you say they come have a different worldview than well, I would say many Americans, if I would say it that way, without going too much into politics. But still, I think it's a fair statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way America looks at communism is very, even in Europe, I think we look very negative on a lot of
Mhm.
that. But the interesting thing is the way you described it. For me, it feels much. Yeah, this is human.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with politics, or it
Yeah.
should not have anything to do with politics, at least. And that's good as a child to get some kind of influence in that sense. So that is nice. That's great to hear. Let's move to that second question. If you had not been doing what you've been doing now, do you have any idea what would have become of you?
You know, I kind of don't because I fell into testing. That being said, I know what I want to do after I retire. Um, and that's to be a hospice chaplain.
Hmm.
But I don't know what I would be doing if I hadn't gotten into tech. I was working horrible customer service jobs, like answering phones, doing that kind of work. Um, and then I happened to meet somebody who made a connection for me, and I got into a help desk at a company, and they moved me into testing. So honestly, I might still be doing what I was doing back then. But I do know what I want to do after this, and that's really to serve in a very different way. I believe in hospice. I care a lot about the process of death and dying, and death with dignity. So that's definitely the next phase of my life after tech.
I really like how you bring it because in this conversation, in this
Mhm,
podcast, multiple people have already said like, okay, could have been the thing that I could have done,
mhm,
and I might still do it. And for you, it's
mhm.
like you just skip that first part and you say, well, after this is what I'm going to do
Yeah.
later. So that means you also had quite some thought about that, or
Mhm.
and is there actual plans already? Is this just yeah, this is what I hope I can do later?
There's plans in terms of I know how to get there,
Mm.
but it does require me going to grad school a second time, and getting like a master's of divinity, because I believe it's important to have the right foundation for the work. Um,
Mhm.
so I would have to go back to school, do that. That takes 2 years, and then it's like a 20-hour a week job. Most people don't do it 40 hours a week. Um, but yeah, I kind of have the plans in place. It's when I'm ready to retire, which I mean, let's be honest, I've got 20 years ahead of me still working
Mhm.
before I can retire. So, I'll get there. And then we'll see what happens. I got a little bit of, I don't want to say practice, but a little bit of experience with it. I served as a deacon at my church for a while, before I had to step down because grad school and work full time was too much. Um, but my ministry was death and dying, and so I got to experience what it's like to serve in that way, and that gave me a good foundation to know that it's the right thing.
Mm. So that's yeah, that is for me indeed something. I like that you say it like the way you said like okay, this is yeah, it's not something you want to do just like that. You want to prepare.
Mhm,
I think well, you have already a life of preparation because I do think the older we grow, we get a lot of experience with
mhm,
working with people in different kind of ways.
mhm.
And I think that will definitely help you with that new part as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, at the same time, I do understand that some theoretical knowledge might be practical in some ways as
Yeah.
well. Even if it's just for people trusting you to do the work, even if you,
Mhm.
even for the people who would be automatically good at that, I can imagine that for some people it would need to have some kind of paperwork to trust you to do that work. So
Yeah.
but like you say, 20 years still a lot of time to
Mhm.
do. Well, and And after retirement, well, yeah, so some of us want to retire and do nothing. I'm also a person that I cannot even imagine retiring. I love what I'm doing, but yeah, I can imagine that other things, well, be might be popping up and just instead of doing nothing. So
Yeah.
that is a nice way of looking and well, looking ahead, I would say, and yeah, preparing, knowing why you want to do that. So that's and what has triggered you to wanting to do this?
A couple of things. So I had some early childhood experiences. I shouldn't say early, but childhood experiences with family members who were very ill. And I got to watch the process of choosing hospice and choosing comfort and care over pain. And
Mm,
I really valued the time I got to spend with those people in an environment that was centric to them, but also embraced the family and ensured that they were able to get the most enjoyment out of the time that they had left for as long as they could. Um, that real passion for this was renewed. I lost my grandmother in end of May, and she chose hospice, and I 100% supported that decision. And we got to celebrate her last birthday with her there. Her friends from her assisted living got to come and spend time with her on her birthday. The whole family, and my dad has 4 siblings, so, like, all 5 of them, all of the grandchildren, everybody was able to come cycle through,
mm,
and she was able to be in good spirits and happy. She got whatever food she wanted. She she wanted a drink, she got to have a drink, those kinds of things. She just got to have her autonomy and her dignity and do things on her terms, and that was really special to see, especially because I got to see her in the light I didn't often get to see her. Her and I are a lot alike, and, she she said I won't say what she said, but she said something to me, and it had a swear word in it, and one of my aunts was sitting in the room too, and my grandmother and I look at each other and just fall apart laughing, and my aunt is horrified. But in a hospital setting, that's not encouraged. In
mm,
hospice, you get to just be you. The nurses aren't fussing over you and telling you to do things. You get to have all that autonomy to make your own choices. And that made that last time with her really special. Um, yeah, that
yeah,
meant a lot
I
to
can
me.
imagine. I can imagine that yeah, taking that time and being yeah as natural as possible is important, both for the people passing and for
Mm,
the people staying
yeah.
in having that environment. And yes, then in some ways, or for some people, being natural means saying words that others might be horrified of. And but yeah, but if that's natural, then it's much better
Yeah.
than yeah feeling one way or another, yeah, obliged not to be natural and
Mhm.
to yeah just to be normal, whatever that means.
Yeah.
But then it would feel yeah yeah, it wouldn't feel natural. It would feel very strange, I think, for many
Mhm.
people. And that is a nice way. So and that is what I'm hearing, something
Mhm.
that encouraged you, or that experience brought you so much that you say, okay, I want to help out other people in having a similar kind of experience.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm hearing.
I want to be the same support for families, and I want to be the same
Mm,
support for people who are making that final transition. Um, Something that we talked about when I was training to be a deacon is this idea of the ministry of silence. And what that is that you're there to just be there. If they want to talk, we talk. If they want to yell and scream and rant about how unfair it is that they're in this situation, I'm there to just listen. I don't have to respond. There's no judgment there. And then the other piece of it is that it stays with me. It stays between me and that person and God, and that's it. And that's so important because in that final transition, people feel like they have to put on an act for their family. They have to let them know that they're okay, that everything's fine, that no one should worry about you. So it's a performance, and it's about caring for the other people instead of them caring for you. So a hospice chaplain, a social worker, a minister, a therapist, they're there exclusively for that person who's making that transition. You don't have to put on an act for me. You don't have to pretend. You can be angry. You can be sad. You can be happy. Whatever it is, like,
Hmm.
that's I'm here for it. Um, so yeah, that's what it's about for me. That's why I want to do it so much because I love that there's a way to provide for people who don't necessarily get that space when they need it most.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think I find it important. There is, yeah, I think with many people, once you get a certain age, you do have people you lose, and you see sometimes strange situations how people deal with it. Whatever rituals that others might like. And I think it's really good that, well, at least that you can be as natural, even open, like indeed being mad that somebody is ill and is leaving, being mad about being ill, that's all part of accepting, and all part of going through the normal emotions, I would say. And I see so many people, yeah, withholding these emotions,
Mhm,
and then it's even harder when they are past. You can be mad at someone who's no longer there, and yeah,
mhm,
that sometimes is also important because it might do
mhm.
damage to yourself as well.
Yeah.
So that is something that's really nice, so wonderful that you intend to do that. So that's
Thank you.
wow. It's a completely different kind of thing, and like I said, many people think about before, and
Mhm,
some people about maybe later, and for you it's almost like there is a path, and it's you
mhm.
know how to get there. So I really like that, really
Thank
nice.
you.
Let's move to that third question.
Yes.
What is at this moment your biggest challenge, and why is that a good thing for you?
Ooh, okay. Biggest challenge. Biggest challenge is balance. I have a tendency to either hyper focus because I'm ADHD or to become completely scattered. Um, so finding ways to balance all of my responsibilities and all of the things that I'm supposed to be doing and not letting any of those plates fall. Um, it's not just a current challenge, it's an always challenge. Like this is just my state of being. Is that I tend to allow certain things to take a bigger priority or take up more time than they should, and then I let other things fall by the wayside, and really it's all about balance. So that's my biggest challenge, and I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, it's just a thing. But it's also part of what makes me me, which is probably why it's a good thing because I get out of balance. I lose the balance because I'm passionate. I get excited about things. I get into things. I'm really, interested in doing it or trying it or learning it or playing with it. And that makes it really easy to let everything else fall. So it's a good thing because it means that I'm still an interesting person who's interested in things. But but it's a challenge because, you still have to get other things done. All of the other responsibilities have to happen, including all of like the admin tasks you don't want to do, like submitting your expense report and things like that.
Yeah, and yeah, of course, I like the way you say it's a continuous challenge, and of course, the moment it's no longer a challenge, then people forget about it, and then there is a new
Mhm,
challenge, because that's how life is. And some challenges we take with us our whole life, are things that we, yeah, that are a bit, that's the biggest challenges, I would say, because if it would not have been big, then maybe it would have been solved already.
yeah.
So yeah, I recognize that, and I think it's true for many people when I ask this question. Um, so, and when you say you have that your whole life, when did you discover these kind of challenges?
Um, I was diagnosed as ADHD when I was 6. So
Wow.
I'd
Okay.
say it's always been there. There's always been an issue with prioritization and executive processing, like in terms of having a list of things to do and figuring out what thing is actually the most important thing. Um, and I can remember as early as like fourth grade when we started getting homework that was more than just worksheets. And I would come home and it would be like, I've got this list of 4 tasks. And then I would sit there and I would stare at the list for 30 minutes because I didn't know
Mm.
what thing on the list to choose, knowing that they all had to get done. But what on the
And
list goes
losing
first?
time, not selecting anything.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'd wind up in this like decision paralysis because I couldn't prioritize it. Um, I started to be given tools as I grew up. You know, my mom gave me tools, the school gave me tools, the resource counselor gave me tools. But you start to lose those tools as an adult because you no longer have like due dates. You know, you have
Hmm.
tasks that need to be done, and oftentimes your boss will be like, "Well, I don't know, just get it to me when you can." It's like, "No, I need to know because I can't prioritize this myself. You're gonna have to tell me, like, when do you have to have this by?" Even if it's a fake date. Even if that date
Mm.
isn't real, I just need something that tells me this is when this has to be completed. Because if I don't, then it's just going to push and push and push because the things that do have a date will go first. And I will never find a way to work it in um, because that prioritization, I can't really do very well.
Mm.
And there are ways, by the way, that I offload some of this. So, like it was always, how people have lists of things that they clean. Like I clean these things on this day and these things on this day, and every 6 months I do this cleaning. One of the privileges of, earning the kind of money we earn in tech is that I was able to hire a cleaning company to come every other week. Now I don't have to prioritize. I need to vacuum on Monday and, you know, do this
Mm.
other task on Tuesday. Now I can just say, you know what? Once a week, I pick up stuff around the house, and every other week, somebody comes and does all of the other things. So, those kinds of things, when what's the right way to put it? A high calorie, like it takes a lot of effort, but low stakes task that can be done by someone else, I try and push that off to whatever I can so that I can focus on the things that matter and prioritize a smaller list.
Hmm. I can definitely get that. And on the podcast, Gitte talked about and oh, how did you say it? She what she does for homework or for really
Mhm,
work that she wants to do around the house. She
mhm,
just uses a dice and says okay, and with the dice that helps
mhm.
her decide on some of these things. So okay, when I throw this, then I do this, and this is
Yep,
just as random as but it's to avoid indeed that kind of
mhm,
yeah get kind of mix up in selecting what to do and to avoid that the thing.
yeah,
And especially if there are not priority, work is
mhm,
different because indeed most have a priority or most need to be done earlier than others.
mhm,
But some things are not important and then it can just be random. And then it helps, and it's a fun way if you can do it with the dice, of course, as well. That yeah,
I'll have to
to have
try
that.
that.
It's, yeah, we have to thank Klitgaard for that because she came up with doing that. And and other things that she said, I'm not sure if it was housework as well, but she also said to for something she did it then just for 25 minutes, and then she I think that's what it she
Mhm,
threw a dice, did it for 25 minutes, and then she threw dice again and did some other stuff, and
yeah,
she noticed like, oh, what, in half an hour I can do actually a lot of work and things keep moving on, a lot of different kind of things. So yeah, it was a fun, or is for her at least a fun way to keep doing it. I think I more like what you said. Okay, I just put things in my agenda at that moment. I will
mhm,
do it, or this. Okay, or at the moment that we finish dinner, I will clean up the table immediately. Let's not do it. Let's not wait it.
Yeah.
It's immediately after that. When I was living alone, it was more like I'll do it before while cooking because, but then it didn't matter that it stayed around with children around the house. I prefer much more that it's done immediately. But yeah, that's I think what I like so much about these stories is that we all find ways to deal with some of these things. Like yeah, a lot of the things in our world in our life we have to do.
Mhm.
For a lot of these, we don't want to do. We don't want to spend a lot of that time. And some things we can, like you said, we can hire people to help us to do with that,
Yeah.
but for a lot of other stuff we can't. We just need to do it ourselves, and then having whatever fun way to gamify it in a way to help us is really good, because of course we can't just ask our boss or anyone else to boss around and tell us when what to do. Okay, sometimes partners do this, or parents do this for children, but I'm not sure if that's always helping, depending on how it's asked. So having a gamified way can really help. Um, and is that something that, but like you now said, when did you realize it? Because if you were diagnostic that as
Mhm.
ADHD at age 6, um, did you already at that moment, like for example with homework or with other things, realize like I have trouble selecting these 6 things, the things I need to do? Yeah.
Yeah, I would come home from school with a list and I'd just stare at it. I wouldn't know what to
Mm,
do. And it wasn't it wasn't until like 4th, 5th grade when they start assigning multiple things a night, and it's not just like a spelling worksheet and a math worksheet, especially because, when you're really little, your parents say, "Get your homework out. Let's sit down and do your worksheets," so it was when I had to start being independent with it that I really, really noticed it.
mm,
And then when I went back to school, um, it sort of reared its head again because I now had to balance work, home, school all on the same list. And
mm.
that got really, really tricky. And that's actually when I got a professional to help and started taking medication again. Um, because it's one of the most effective tools for me. It's not an effective tool for everybody, but for me, it's an effective tool.
Mm. So that's and again, like you say, yeah, it's what works for you might not work for other people, but
Right.
everybody has to find their own way of making things work,
Mhm.
and finding tools, the environment, the people around them, the supporting cast, I would say, in a way to make it work. Some have software that would automate the hell out of it, even if it's again random choices, whatever. It's ways to deal with these kind of things. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now the second part of that question was, why is that a good thing for you? What are good about these challenges for you?
So I actually feel it's a good thing because if you have a lot of things on your list, then most likely you are interested in things, you're engaged with things, you're doing things, you have some level of productivity. If your list is all like make 30 doctor's appointments, maybe that's not as interesting a list. But if your list is varied and it's things like, schoolwork, prepping for a conference, prepping for a conversation and a podcast, work, like things for your actual job, maybe even hobbies, like I crochet and I have a project that's like 3/4 of the way done that I can't seem to prioritize finishing. It when I look at that list, I see an interesting person, at least what I hope is an interesting person,
Mm-hmm.
like somebody who has a lot of things going on that are varied, that some are screen-based, some are not screen-based, some are intellectual, some are creative. And so it's a good thing because I can see that I'm still engaging in things and I'm still engaged with the world. And I haven't done something that I want to phrase this the right way. I'm the same, like when I think about what my mom and stepdad were like at my age, they went to work, they came home, and that was about it. Eventually they started to get involved in local politics, but that wasn't until my sister and I were out of the house. when I think back, there were no hobbies. There Once my mom finished grad school, there was no school other than the, like, credits she had to earn, yearly for her license. Um, they didn't have a lot of friends, so there wasn't this interesting, varied life. And when I look at my life, I see time with friends and time with my spouse and, activities and intellectual pursuits and professional pursuits and all of these different things that are keeping me young and engaged and happy. And that's why it's a good thing. Like, if I have a lot of things on my list, then I have a lot of good things happening.
Mm.
If I don't have a lot of things on my list, then my life is probably pretty boring right now. So might be a weird way to look at it, but I see it as like there's value in all of these things and how they fulfill me, and how they make me feel and how they engage me, um, and how they help me connect with others because like time with friends and family is always on that list.
I like that indeed. Yeah, I also recognize that, and I think many people have said it either on the podcast or at other
Mm,
moments. Like, yeah, it's there is a reason why there is so many things on the to-do list and so many things on the interesting list. Is that people are the people like you are interested in many things. And again, no judgment on people who have just
yeah.
one goal and one thing that focus on, but I think this is also what brings creativity, like you
Mhm.
talked earlier about the testing. The fact that you look at different kind of things, I can really see that can help you as a tester to really look and try out the non-conformity ways, and that's exactly what we you to do as a tester, to find the things that yeah, it's not supposed to work like that, but yeah, you'll
Yeah.
find it. that's
Exactly.
that's yeah, and and yeah, there is yeah. I also run into software sometimes, into things that I'm thinking like, yeah, why does it work that way? And then when I ask the developers, like, yeah, but you're not supposed to do, well, yeah, somehow I did it because that's how I thought it should work. And okay, it wasn't supposed to, but then somehow that your software gave me that idea, or my brain gave me that idea, whatever. And that's yeah, the multiple interest things, I think that that brings that. That's so I agree. It's definitely something that can bring in a good, and I love how you bring that, because typically when in school or other places in our environment, in
Mhm.
our economy, we talk about ADHD and autism and all these kind of things as problems, and hardly about, hey, what is the value that it brings? Which
Mhm.
is, yeah, it's and yes, it's a challenge, and yes, there are parts that it makes it harder for you and the people around you, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't bring you value, both in your job and in you as a person and in your life. I think that's also an important thing to do.
Yeah.
And somehow in school, was that well? But let's turn it into a question.
Mhm.
Because you got that stamp in a way, that label as ADHD at age
Mhm.
6. Was that really a label? Did you feel it in a negative way when you were young?
I didn't feel it in a negative way. Um, I think partly because I was diagnosed so young because my mom had expertise. Working with autistic, early childhood, she knew what she was seeing,
Right.
because there's so many overlaps between ADHD and autism. Um, it gave me So I actually look at the diagnosis as a gift because it gave me a framework to understand my own behavior. There are so many things that are kind of ADHD and autism specific personality things and behaviors, and you feel like a weirdo, you feel like an outsider.
Mm,
But when
exactly.
you have that understanding of where it comes from, then you can learn to either make it work for you or you can find tools to manage it. Um, I am not an advocate for masking. I don't think that I should have to pretend that I'm not what I am, that my neurotype is different. Um, but I do believe that there are times that I have to find ways to manage certain things. So, like things like hyperfocus. It is not a positive thing for me. Some people, it's great. they work in that way and it's good for them. For me, I'll hyper focus on changing a color for 3 or 4 hours until I find the exact shade of yellow I'm looking for. Like, this is not a good
Mm,
thing. So, since I understand the hyper focus, I understand where it comes from and how I can manage it. Managing
mm,
it through things like using Pomodoro timers, or managing it by saying, I have to walk away from this now before I start doing it because I know that I'm in a mindset where I'm going to hyperfixate. Um, Sometimes it means totally putting something away and starting it over because I know that for whatever reason, that particular thing that I'm working on is going to cause that behavior. So I'm going to do it in a different way. Um, this most often happens when I'm like designing a deck or something. Um, but having that framework, having that understanding and the language that goes with it helped me to communicate my needs, understand my needs, and advocate for myself. Um, it was my mother kind of primed me to be a self advocate. So there's this thing in the US called an IEP, an individual education plan. And I had that in school, partly for the ADHD and partly because I have some skill discrepancies that well, except for math, I've kind of accounted for at this point. I've sort of closed the gap. But when I was young, I sat in the meeting and listened to the adults. When I was in like middle school, I was able to chime in and say, this thing or that thing, or I want this accommodation. And my mother's expectation was by the time I was in high school, I was running the meeting. So I was advocating
mm,
for what I need and what tools I need the school to provide and what I expect out of the tutor that was kind of my resource. Because, there were no laptops that you could drag back and forth with you to school when I was in high school. So,
right.
things like I need access to the computer lab when I'm taking a test that has an essay instead of handwriting it because they're not going to be able to read my handwriting and they're not going to be able to read my spelling. And I would much rather do it myself than dictate to the tutor to be a scribe. So things like that, I was expected to say, this is what I want and this is how I expect you to provide it. And then
Mm.
of course it's a negotiation and that's when my mom stepped in. But
Yeah, that was the second part I wanted to ask. Did they already listen to you? And of course, this is when it helps to have an adult, a supporting adult, to
yeah.
step in, and who knows her shit, because that's what you said. She had some experience working with people who have their own challenges, so she knows how what kind of help is needed, and that's, yeah, the answer you gave for me is very similar to what I've heard from a lot of other people. Is like, yeah, it can be a label, but the label comforts in a way that you finally understand, like, okay, I'm not just a weirdo. There is a reason why I am different. And well, there is always reasons why we're different, but as a young child, you don't understand that, and so there is nothing. Well, there's nothing wrong with not being normal, I would say, but when we're young, that it's always feels like that. If we're too different, and then yeah, having such a label, I know quite a few people who had some kind of diagnose after their 30s or 40s, and they all say the same thing. I wish I had known that because I felt so out of place when I was young. um, and I also hear, because you had such a supportive mother, and because that was worked a lot, that also helped the people around you, here also the teachers, why you were different, and what they could do to help you achieve the things you want to achieve. This, yeah, that that's really interesting to have such yeah, to have such an environment to be growing up and feeling, okay, I kind of understand. Well, maybe you don't, at 6 you don't fully understand yourself, but at least you get some kind of comfort, like, okay, this is why, and I'm not alone, because when you get a label, it typically means there's more people like you, and that helps to do that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
let's move to that next question, because I hear a lot of passion. If at a young age you already um, advocate for yourself and the tools you need, there is a lot of drive, there is a lot of passion. So I typically ask, do you know where it's coming from? But I'm hearing this is already there at a young age. Do you have any idea what triggered that? Was that because you had to advocate for yourself, or is this coming from somewhere else?
Wait, so this is a mixed bag. Um, so some of it is that I have natural ambition, um, and I have to harness it in the right ways. Some of it is that I am just naturally interested in things. So, I'm just passionate in trying things and learning things and
Hmm.
experimenting. It's just kind of part of my personality. The other piece of it that is not as good is that while my mom was very engaged and supportive in terms of my neurotype and learning disability, there was a my childhood wasn't like idyllic. Let's be really honest about it. And so I was in a family where you earn love. And so my drive also comes from a negative place that I have to earn my value, that I have to achieve. And that's something I'm working on as an adult to I've had to learn that it's okay to fail sometimes, because
Hmm.
failure to me like is not there's no learning experience there. Like failure to me is, oh my gosh, my spouse is going to leave me, and nobody's going to want to talk to me anymore because I screwed up or I failed, and like I'm not worthy of anything now because I failed. So it's a double-edged sword, because I am interested in things. I am really passionate about learning things and trying things and doing things, and I do have some natural ambition. But then I also have this other side that you know, I have to I have to be worthy. And worth comes from achievement. So I'm
Hmm.
trying to break myself of that. And I'm trying to put myself in a situation where I can fail. I've been one of those types who plays it safe. Like, put yourself in a situation where you're going to be successful, where you're set up for success, where maybe you're working below your skill level so that you can still achieve. And I'm forcing myself to do things that are difficult and that are challenging and that I may not be the best in the room at, so that I can fail and it be okay. Um, it's still scary, and it's still something I talk about with my therapist. But even in our 40s, we can learn to break those habits and those generational curses, which is definitely what it is in my family.
Hmm.
Sorry for that being a downer. Um,
No, it's I no, for me it's like, yeah, this is so important to talk about it. And yeah, I mean, it a lot of people have trouble with failing,
mm,
and or no, are afraid of failing, and
mhm,
actually probably have almost never failed, or
mhm.
small failures, because of exactly what you're saying. You work in a way that, to avoid that, you put the goal so low that it's easy to achieve, and then then we don't fail. But then afterwards we might be unhappy about ourselves because the goals were not set high enough, and we feel that that's a failure. And then yeah, it goes in all kind of
Yeah,
directions. So
there's a lot of
um,
pieces to it.
mhm. Yeah, and I see. And I also heard that for many things there is a link there with, or for many people that have this, there's a link with being perfectionist. Is that the same for you? Are you a perfectionist, or is that something unrelated for you?
I'm really not a perfectionist, because I'm almost incapable of doing things perfectly. Like, really and truly, I will always screw something up somewhere along the line, because it's not about the steps along the way, it's about the final outcome.
Mm,
So it's not perfection. It really, for me, is that failure wasn't an option. That
mm.
you had to achieve, and that's the deal. And some of my family, oh, we Milton, you can't get on the desk. Sorry. Um, so there's even some competition, like
Mm,
there's the aunt that was horrified at what my grandmother said also kind of pitted my cousins and my sister and I against each other. Who's
right.
who's going to
So
be the
not
most successful?
some kind of competition, a real competition, what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Yeah, like who's going to go to the best college? Who's going to score the highest grades? Who's getting the best score on the ACT and the SAT? Like those were conversations, and that creates an environment where you have to win to be worthy of your place and to be worthy of love, even though no one has to achieve to be loved. Like that shouldn't be the way it works. But that's kind of the way it was, and it's something I'm trying to break.
Yeah, can imagine that. Yeah, this is. I recognize it's not because I know some people for who there is a link that link is for everybody. That's exactly why I was asking,
Yeah.
because I want to make sure that there is that visibility
Mhm.
on everyone. And like you say, the competition, the real thing, like, okay, it should be really, yeah, that is something I've seen with so many people, either parents or other family members that think they're doing a good thing by saying, okay, we should do the best. And yeah, it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, but then there can only be one the best, and everybody else is down and doesn't feel supported anyway.
Mhm.
And of course it can be in different kind of ways, but then, yeah, it's that
It's
life is not such a competition, I feel, but somehow for some people they want to make it. And is that something that you realized, at some point? Well, you realize it now because you're talking about it. So at what age did you realize that that person was trying to create a competition between you?
um I think I knew it pretty young, but then I really started to understand it when I went to therapy the first time in like my early 20s.
Mm.
Um that's really when it hit, especially because I'll give you a little background. My sister is an elite level violinist. She
Wow.
works professionally. She didn't
Talking
start.
about having
Yeah,
a high bar for you.
exactly. She didn't start playing until fifth grade. She's 4 years younger. The same time she started playing violin, I was trying to learn to play guitar. Um, she just is. This is just her gift. I mean, she's just born to do it. I was not born to play guitar, and she was listening to me from outside of my bedroom. I was trying to learn to play "Wish You Were Here," and so I was looking at the chord chart and I was listening to the song and I was trying to play it, and I have little tiny hands and no coordination. And she's like, "Hey, can I try?" And so she comes in and I'm like, "Okay, let me show you how the chords, like where your hands go." And she looks, and of course she's got some dexterity because she's learning violin. And she listens to the song, and she could read music, I couldn't. She looks at the chord chart, she matches it up to the score, and then she plays it straight through. And my mom,
Oops.
yeah, my mom heard from outside and she goes, "Wow, Jenna, you really got it." And I was like, "That was Caitlin." And she's like, "Oh, well, maybe Kate should play the guitar." And I just kinda handed her the guitar and I said, "You know what? Music is your gift and not mine. I'm walking away." Uh,
Mm.
but in a household where competition wasn't a thing, I probably would have stuck with it. But
Mm.
that that moment was like, "Oh, well, I'm never gonna be as good as you are. So why should I
So
continue doing this?"
exactly, then I can better stop. And it's and so it and let's go back like even 5 minutes before that. So
Yeah.
was that fun while you were trying to play the guitar, right? Because you listen to Pink Floyd and you say, okay, I want to play that song.
I
Was
was
that
not having
fun?
fun. I
So
was trying so hard.
even
Yeah.
before your sister came in, it was not fun yet. So okay.
I wasn't having fun yet. I was
Mm.
hoping that it would get fun because I really, really wanted to be able to play guitar. I really wanted to, like, be able to play and sing and, maybe, play around the campfire at summer camp. But, no, I was not having a good time. I was very frustrated.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I
but
was willing to stick with it. And so
that's yeah, that was I was afraid of. Of course, people typically, you need to have some kind of success and some
yeah,
kind of way that you can say, okay, there I can deal with something, before you typically have fun, or you just do your own thing without listening to other songs, and then it can be fun as well. And that's actually for me what I heard, what how punk rock, to go back to what you said earlier, helped so many other people to go into music. Even really good musicians these days said like, okay, it was thanks to punk where I could just hear that, oh, that's also how you could make music. Okay, that's easy, that I can try. And then only later realizing like, okay, there is some art, but don't care too much about it. So, but you were at that moment really into that household that was so much competition that it really felt like I have to, if I can't do that and my sister can do it in just a couple of minutes, I better walk away and
Yeah, if
don't
I
do
can't do it
anything.
well, then I shouldn't do it, was
Right.
basically what it came down to. And I had lots of other hobbies. So I was in Girl Scouts and I was a swimmer and I did theater. I had plenty of other things I was doing.
I'm not
So
surprised because of what you said earlier on. But let's move
yeah.
basically in a way we already moved gradually to that next question.
Yeah.
What is then your biggest achievement? Is there something where, because what I'm now even more interested in the pre-question, because in a lot of the conversations, so basically this is a moment to brag and to be really proud. And what I've noticed in this conversation with other people is that it's also interesting to see, is it easy for people to brag? Is it easy if you're growing up in a household where competition is big? Is it then easy to be really proud of achievements?
It is not easy to be proud of achievements. It's really hard. So, I've got two things. One is behind me on the wall. So I dropped out of college. I basically like completed a year and a half when I first started. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. Dropped out. I went back at the start of COVID, so 2020, and my goal was to graduate before my 40th birthday. And I graduated a month before my 40th birthday. So I'm very proud of the fact that I did it. And I did it at Bowling Green, which is a local university. Um, and then my other thing that I'm most proud of will happen in May, when I, you know, get my thesis approved by the thesis committee and, walk across that stage and get my MFA in experience design. Um, and I'm considering applying to a PhD program, but
Wow.
that getting my master's degree is going to be a huge achievement for me. I'm going to be really, really proud of it. Yeah, I think those are my big ones. Like finishing college when I set the goal and I did it, even though I really didn't want to, and then and then doing this. Um, yeah, I think those are my biggest. Oh goodness, Milton, he is he's six
It,
months. He's a lot. Uh,
so and he likes attention in many ways, and so that's
yes.
it brings us the diversity. And you don't have to, but I still want to go a little bit back to that pre-question. Like in a household where there's so much attention to achieving, is that part of why it's harder to be proud for you? Is that then, oh, because I can't, because my sister has this or my niece has this? Is that a part of
It's
it, or?
it's very hard because you could have always done better. Oh,
So
you
you're
could have
not
gotten
even
A.
proud yourself. It's like, no, no, I know that the bar could be higher, and
Mhm.
there's even others who can do better.
Yeah.
Even my sister can do this or that better or whatever. Yeah. So
I
that's
mean, honestly, even my sister who I mean, she went to a really elite music school, like, she played on a song that was nominated for a Grammy, like, she still could achieve more in our my mom's eyes. So, no, there's always the it's hard to be proud of something because, you could have always done better. Even though I've started to learn to let myself say, "I'm proud of this thing even though it's not perfect. I'm proud of my GPA even though it's not straight A's." Um, so that's a learning process, but it kinda depends on the household. In my household, it was you could have always done better. You could have
Mhm.
done this extracurricular, you could have gotten a higher grade or, whatever it
And
was.
does that also mean that when you achieve something, that is it hard for you to enjoy it?
Mhm.
Is there a middle immediately that thought, oh, I could have done this better or better? So you literally can't enjoy the moment itself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that's why therapy is important. If you grew up in a household like this, that's why therapy is important, because you learn to give yourself permission to be proud and to enjoy things and to say that I did the best that I am capable of doing. Doesn't matter that someone else could have done it better. I did the best that I can do. And I am proud of that achievement because I did as much as I am capable of. Um, you know, I used to laugh at the C's get degrees, but you know what? C's get degrees. You have the same piece of paper as the person who had a 4.0.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, I think it's well. The thing is, I've seen in when my I have a 22-year-old who's now studying already a couple of years in at university,
Mhm.
and I remember when he's interested is that the school said, ah, this degree, because he's going for civil engineer, no, you
Mhm.
can't do it, you shouldn't start. It's like, wait a minute, why you at least start and try. If
Yeah.
after a year it doesn't work out or you don't like it, you can stop, that's okay. But the school really wanted, no, whatever you choose, you have to go immediately go through it and have straight A's and whatever. It's like, well, I don't know, if you then put the bar lower, you might get better grades, but yeah, will you be so much happier? At least try, and you maybe have a degree that is higher or more, where it's more interesting for you, but it's harder, and you work harder and whatever.
Mhm.
That should also be a possibility, I think. And yeah, somehow school. I see at least a lot of schools I see here in Belgium, like they focus on no, whatever you do, you have to be without any problem, you have to pass. And it's like, well, I don't know, I've coached and work with so many people who've been at 40 or 50 are so disillusioned with themselves that they didn't try this or that and that they gave up playing guitar.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, because somehow there was some things. So therapy for you helped out.
Yeah.
I think that is also an important message that I think is good to people to hear, that coaching, therapy, all kind, the people that you talked about, your bonus grandparents helped you in shaping your worldview. It's not too late in a way. After you've grown up, other people can give you little pushes and say, well, maybe you're a little bit hard on yourself, and maybe there's other ways of looking at yourself, at this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if you care to share, at what moment did you realize that that would be helpful for you to go into therapy?
Um, so I knew in my early 20s that I needed to go to therapy. There were a lot of things I was dealing with. Um, Complicated family situations, messy stuff with friends, and also I had started to date my husband when we were 19. We got married when we were 27. He was 28, I was 27. Um, but when we started to get serious, knowing that, let's see, my dad is married for the third time. My mom's remarried. His dad had been married twice when he passed, and his mom has been married twice and is now in a long-term relationship. And my grandparents got divorced. My grandmother divorced her first husband, her second husband passed away, and then she dated a guy until he passed. Um, there were like 11 marriages between our parents and, my grandparents getting divorced.
Wow.
I wanted to, since I was really serious about him, learn how to be in a long-term relationship the right way. All of the research says that we shouldn't make it, that with that level of dysfunction between our parents and what we grew up with, that we should not be able to remain married. But we just had our 15th anniversary, our 15th wedding anniversary in May.
Woohoo!
Thank you. I credit me going to therapy early in our relationship, and then us going to marriage counseling prior to getting married, and going to them
Mm.
saying, listen, there's nothing wrong. We're not having problems. but we want to set ourselves up for success. Can you give us the tools that will help us navigate the complications that come with marriage? Because it's easy to walk away when you're dating. It's much harder to walk away when it's on paper and legal, and you have to get it just feels different, and the arguments are different and the complexities are different. So, we said, give us the tools so that we can be, the ones who defy the statistics. And I think it really worked.
I really like that. It's been well. I'm a big fan as well of going to yeah, couples therapy because it helps, and I'm actually convinced that it's probably one of the best gifts you can give to new wed people. Like you say, not because you tell, oh, your marriage is going to fall down. No, because at that very start, you creating some ways of communicating, and yeah, it's much easier to help you with good tools than later to correct and learn to. Unfortunately, the first time that I'm with my partner, we went, that was already later, so we were already in some things that we had to unlearn. But yeah, I'm still a big fan, and indeed, I think it can help at so many levels to learn in better ways of communicating. And I'm convinced you talk about the marriage problems or the divorces that there was around you, but I think a lot of us, we go to different things and we pick up. And even if I would have had my parents would have had a perfect marriage, and their grandparents or whatever, and the same with my partner, still that perfect marriage of my parents and her parents might be completely different, and that would
Right.
still bring us into trouble. And we might still, yeah, find ways to deal with each other, and find ways to talk or not talk at the moment that we should or shouldn't do. And yeah, just having good, sometimes it's tricks, but sometimes it's just okay. Yeah, learning some things that when you hear it, it's like, yeah, of course. But then why didn't we think about it 10 years ago or 15 years ago, whatever? So that's really a great story to hear, that actually, because I'm telling it as I'm telling this a lot to people, and I'm really I'm not sure that my children will like it, but I really think that's what I want to do when they get married. So give them 10 sessions or whatever. I'm pretty sure I will have to explain, but in a way that, like you just said it, and I'm so happy to hear somebody that actually did it, and that has basically the data to prove 15 years later, like, Kim, come on, we're doing well. And of course you will have arguments, and of course you will have
Oh, yeah.
harder moments. That's not about that, but it's okay. You found a way for 15 years, or it like, oh, okay, it's working for us.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. And that's even, yeah, a fantastic achievement with not just the 15 years, but
Yeah.
just the whole way, and the thinking about it, and understanding yourself, like, okay, therapy might be useful for me. Therapy as a couples or marriage counseling, whatever we call it, is really useful for us as a couple. That's wonderful. So thank you for sharing this.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Let's move to that next question. Do you have a personal agility tip to share?
Empathy. Empathy is at the heart of Agile, because Agile should provide you with empathy for your team, empathy for yourself, and empathy for your customer. If you are intentional about doing kind of 360-degree thinking, where you say, what do I need from this thing? So if we're talking about, let me use a personal example, user stories. There's testers always get into this situation where we say the story isn't detailed enough. I need more information to know how I should expect this to behave under all of these potential varying circumstances. Having empathy for the product person or the business analyst to know that you're asking a lot of them. Having empathy for yourself, knowing that you need this to do your job better. So you're not doing this to be difficult. Because I would always feel like, man, I feel like I'm giving this person a really hard time. And I'd have to remind myself, no, I need to have empathy for myself. I am setting myself up for success, which in turn sets the customer up for success. So having empathy there, and then having empathy for the developers, knowing that they have to think through a lot of complexity that they've already handled before it gets to you. You may add additional complexity and say, well, what about this and this and this and this? And having empathy for the fact that they feel like they're done. Now they're going back and reworking, and they might be frustrated. They might be confused. They may not have the answers. Um, and then having empathy for the user, knowing that in the end, this is going to them. And how is it going to feel for them to use it? What what pain points are they going to have? How can I put myself in their shoes so that I can better advocate for them? When we make empathy the heart of what we do, we immediately become more agile because we're more willing to be flexible and change and adapt based on what everybody's needs are. Because agile isn't about the big A agile and doing it the quote right way. Agile is about doing it the way that works for us.
Hmm.
And empathy is in the middle of that.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, it's yeah. It is for me indeed the basic for so many things, and whatever way we work, even in, well, you talked about the marriage counseling and everything, the way thinking about the other people and seeing them as people, because for me that's a big part what empathy is. It's like understanding them, where they're coming from. I might not agree or with everything they say. I might even dislike some of it, but I can still understand it, and I might say, okay, because of that, I can deal and work with you, or I can create the software the way you want it, or test it the way you want it, whatever. That is an important part of that. And I really love that answer. It's a really important part of well, individuals and interactions. So that needs empathy in many ways. And contract negotiations, it's the same thing. It's yeah, we need to talk to each other. So yeah, that start no how would I say it, yeah, that is a big start of with working in teams in whatever we do. So that is an important part of yeah, otherwise without that, no collaboration, nothing, and I would say, so a really important part there. So thank you for sharing that.
You're
Let's
welcome.
move to that next one, and I want to learn about, or want to hear about what you've learned about remote working. And of course, for many people, remote working, that meant a lot of us, we started in 2020. But did you do some remote working before, or how was that for you?
So I am really lucky that I started remote working in December of 2019.
Hmm.
So I
Just in
got
time.
just in time. I got a little bit of time before the world shut down.
Right.
Um, I joke that I got to buy things for my remote office before everything sold out.
Oh yeah, I reckon. Well, I had some of that equipment, but then I had, but then there is like two children that having to
Yeah.
work from home, and we needed to buy extra webcams or share webcams or whatever. Yeah, I recognize that thing. Oh yeah, so you were the one that keep having them. Well, no, you had them before, so you
Yeah.
weren't blocking everything. Um, and so, and did that help you also as a person to see? Okay, I have some extra months before, so I got used to the tools, and in many ways, was that helpful for you?
Um, I think so. My biggest challenge in remote working, and it's still something I'm working on. So I love remote working. My office is set up exactly the way I need it. I can control the light, I control the sound, like whatever I need, I can do it, and I don't have to worry about disturbing people. The hard part is that it can get kind of lonely, especially because of the way my schedule works. Um, I am the only person in the US on my team. The other two people are in India, and my boss is in the UK. So my day starts at like 7 a.m. or 7:30, but by the time like 11 a.m. or noon hits, everybody's gone.
Wow.
And so like there is no messaging somebody on Slack or anything like that. Like I am working alone in those last hours of my day. My long-suffering husband then, when he gets home, I, like, attack him with attention because I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's another person." But it's an adjustment to one, have your mornings be really full. So you have to plan, like, I need to get up at this time, I need to eat breakfast because I know I'm gonna have back-to-back stuff so that we can get that overlap time. And also know that there's going to be this silence that's gonna happen. So you have to figure out how to structure your day and how to, you also have to find kind of other people. So I have a bunch of Slack communities I'm in, and that's really helpful. And some other friends in tech that are also remote that, we can chat throughout the day. But for me, it's definitely kind of the isolation. I like working remotely. I will never go back to working in an office, but I do sometimes feel lonely. This guy helps.
And so yeah, what you learned that it works for you,
Mhm.
because that's what you say. I never want to go back. You learned that communities help. Are
Mhm.
there other ways that other tricks, other things that you've learned that you can share?
Oh goodness, come on. Come on, come on. Get down. Okay. Well, probably locking him out of the room would be helpful, but um I'm trying to think. I think all of my tricks are about catering to myself. And what I mean by that is find, like, literally find the lighting that works for you. You don't like bright white light, get yellow bulbs. You can't deal with silence, get a white noise machine. You don't like white noise, figure out music you can listen to that isn't distracting. Like, I can't put on music I want to listen to because then I'll start singing along. So, like, it'll pull my attention instead of help me stay
Mm,
focused. But literally anything you can do to customize your physical space and that physical environment will make your remote home, whether it's in your, home or it's like a co-working space, whatever you can do to customize it to your specific needs. If you're like not neurotypical like me, that's especially helpful because, like, I can't stand fluorescent lights. They drive me nuts. So, like, you can't tell, but that light is a soft white, like a not a fluorescent bright white.
mm.
So those kinds of things. Like, remote is about whatever works best for you, and for some people, that's sitting in a coffee shop all day. For other people, that's, their private room in their house that's set up entirely the way they want it. Um, I think that's my biggest tip is, like, invest in what works for you. Invest in the physical space and the way it works.
I really like that, and indeed, somehow people think, yeah, but we're already happy when we can work from home, but
Mhm.
it's, yeah, figuring out what really works. Yeah, there are many people that have actually much better equipment at home than they have
Mhm.
at an office,
Yeah.
and there is a reason for that. And yeah, well, offices should also invest more, but like you say, um, having the right lights, it might be different
Mhm.
than for you than the person sitting next to you, and that's really hard. At home, you
Mhm.
can look for that. Okay, you have to have an agreement with your partner depending on the budget that some of these things cost. The cats have to agree about some of that if it drives them crazy. But all in all, that's
Yeah.
easier than working with how many other people that you're working with. So that is indeed a nice thing. And if you're working in an international company like you are, that brings adjustments, but it has some advantages. Like you say, you can have the conversations you need at the moment. You can, or you need to organize yourself a little bit around it, but then you can work in silence at the
Yeah.
moment that it's needed for you and that it helps you. So that is a really interesting thing to have as well. Let's move to that next question. Let's talk about a book you have read. What's a book that you want to talk about?
So I want to talk about Danella Meadows' book, Thinking in Systems.
And that's the book, if I'm correct.
It is, yes. I love this book.
Hmm.
I love systems thinking in general, um, but I especially love this book. And it's funny because I said that I wanted to do this book before classes started. And I happened to be taking a class on rhetoric. I had to take a couple of electives. So this is one of the electives. And one of the things that I'm reading for this class is network theory. Well, I'm reading network
Hmm.
theory and I'm going, this is just systems. Like this is all, and when I say network theory, I don't mean network in terms of like servers. I mean
Hmm.
rhetorical networks. So the way we
Hmm.
communicate and the technology that we use to communicate, like starting with the printing press, all the way up through now. So I'm looking at network theory and network actor theory, and I'm like, this is literally just the way we have nodes and links in systems thinking. Um, but let's go further and talk about how everything is a system. Like
Hmm.
the companies we work for are systems, the software we work on are systems, our families are systems, and these systems interact with each other. Like our family system definitely interacts with our work system. When you
Oh
think about
yeah.
it, like there's conflict there. So how do we resolve those conflicts between these systems? How do we identify the nodes within that system and where they link? And this can help you with things as simple as my boss isn't well liked at the company and it's affecting me. How do I identify the right allies to make so that I am not put in the same box as my boss? And by the way, I'm not saying my boss isn't liked. My boss is very well liked. But like it's a
No,
thing
no,
that
but
happens.
you're talking
Yeah.
about an hypothetical
Yeah,
situation
just in
that I
general.
get,
Like
and indeed, yeah, that's the yeah. I'm a big fan of system thinking as well, and it's uh, yeah. Her book is really one that's yeah wonderful to read. I've yeah the problem with system thinking is that there's a lot of very I don't know, it's theoretical books is maybe too exaggerated, but the books are like I get it, but I need to read the page like 15 times before I start to get it. And that's this is a different one. That's well, I
it's
wouldn't say easy to read, but at the same time, it's easier than most others, I would say.
it's way more accessible
Hmm.
than like Weinberg's An Introduction to General Systems Thinking. Um, but I think it's more accessible not just because of her writing, because her writing really was very, very good. And
Hmm.
she was an exceptional communicator. It's also because of her background. So, coming from natural sciences, she's able to describe systems in ways that aren't theoretical. We understand the natural world. Like it's something that the humans are wired to understand. So, as she's
Hmm.
explaining things using natural phenomena, it's much more understandable and accessible than the math that's in, general systems, an introduction to general systems thinking,
Hmm.
or some of the theoretical or like physical networking, physical software kinds of things that are in other books. I think my biggest takeaway though is that like you don't have to become an expert in systems thinking, but
Hmm.
if you can glean at least some of what she's talking about, you become a more strategic thinker. You start to be able to identify what's important faster. And that's really the goal. We're not all going to be really exceptional systems thinkers. If we were, everybody would do the same job. But if you can get better, yeah, if you can get better at finding what matters faster, you will improve not only your work life, but also your personal life. It becomes easier to identify why someone said something they said, or a great example is our garage door wouldn't close. Couldn't figure it out, like the electric garage door opener, it wouldn't close. It kept getting to the sensor and then bouncing back. So I'm like looking through the garage. I'm like, is something in the way of the sensor? Nothing's in the way of the sensor. This doesn't make any sense. So I just stopped and I hit the button again and I listened as the garage door went back up after it didn't close. And I heard this weird ticking sound. I'm like, okay, where's that coming from? So I do it again. I'm like, okay, it's coming from the actual mechanism, like the garage door mechanism that pulls it open and close. I don't know what it's called. Um, and I said, okay, let me look at this panel that has the button on it. I look at the panel and I'm like, ooh, I've never noticed this button before. So I hit the button and it starts flashing. It's like, well, I've never seen that. And so I'm thinking about it and I'm like, okay, garage door wouldn't close, sensors are fine. It's making this weird ticking sound. I wonder if it needs to be reset and if that's what this button does. So, the button starts flashing because I'm holding it. And I said, I wonder what happens if I keep holding it. So it went from flashing quickly to flashing really, really fast. And then I heard the mechanism start to tick again. I was like, okay, I feel like I'm on the right track. And then all of a sudden, the light went from flashing to solid. And it stopped. The garage door opener stopped ticking. It's like, okay, hit the button, like the button to close it again, and it closes. And so what I realized is that somehow it had gotten out of sync. The sensor wasn't reading because it was out of sync. So the door wasn't in sync with the sensor. I reset the whole system, which was what the ticking was telling me, that like it's trying to set itself and it can't. And now it can close. Part of that is being a tester and experimenting. But a big part of that is thinking through the system, thinking about what are all of the pieces of this mechanical thing and how do I identify these pieces? Because this thing's got to be at least 25 years old. There's no book for it. How do I
Right.
identify all of the pieces of this thing without knowing anything about it? And knowing what all of the nodes were, which were the button, the sensor, the mechanism, and then all of the links, which are the track and the door and that kind of stuff. And just putting those pieces together. So as opposed to calling somebody and paying them $200 to hit a button.
And you, because you link it to system thinking, did you at some point also make a diagram out of it, or this is just happening in your head?
This is happening in my head.
Yeah.
I would say this was a period of maybe 5 minutes of me just like standing in the dark garage because the light doesn't work. On the list to fix. And just like listening and watching and observing. And that's system thinking, is being able to watch a system and process and then take it apart. That may have been a
Yeah.
long way around, but
No, but I like it, and indeed, well, I think you gave already in this whole conversation, you gave already many examples of system thinking, like what you explained with what happened in your family, what you explained about some of the other things that even at work and the remote work and things like that. So it's just looking at the whole and looking at yourself as part of the whole, and looking what role do I play, or where do some of the remarks that I get help me out or doesn't help me out. The fact that you say, okay, I looked at that system of where I was with the divorces and everything, and then looking at my own relationship. Oh, okay, I'm a something that needs maybe a little more tickling and more
yeah.
information and learning. That's also for me system thinking. What were the inputs there, and what's the typical effects? Because like you say or said earlier on, if you have a relationship and you get some messages, you might have an automatic reaction because that's how your system is wired. And if you can have conversations around that, if you can have your own therapy to wire yourself or dewire or whatever you need to call it, to or reprogram, maybe that's the word, to reprogram yourself to act in a different way. So that's I really like that, and indeed I love the book. So it's one of the books that I think. So I part of me is in this conversation is discovering new books. But what I've noticed is that from time to time people like you bring in a book that I have read and that is like, oh, I should reread it again. And like I was already thinking. I kind of know where it is in my library, somewhere there. But like, yeah, so it probably will pop out a little bit later as well, because I want to relook at some parts of it. So that's a really wonderful book. I'm a big fan as well. So thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
That brings us already with a question that for me is a really wonderful question to ask with people, where the conversation goes in all kind of directions. So what is a question that I didn't ask you, and do you think that I should also ask you, and what is the answer?
Gosh, I don't know. We covered a lot. Oh,
Yeah, I'll try to fix or go at least to a different camera for now until I fixed it. But go ahead. Yeah, take your time to think.
gosh.
You don't need to do it in with the first 5 seconds. But
Okay.
yeah.
Can it be a silly thing?
Of course it can be.
Okay.
Why not?
So a question that I get asked two questions. Who is your favorite wrestler? Or actually three questions. Who is your favorite wrestler? Do you know wrestling is fake? And who's your favorite musician? Those are the three that I get asked a lot because I always include wrestling and punk rock. So my favorite wrestler is Bianca Belair, even though she's very new school. Yes, I know wrestling is fake, but so are all of your favorite TV shows. They're all scripted. The difference is that people actually get hurt sometimes in wrestling. And then my favorite musician.
Wait, but because you go very quickly.
Oh, sorry.
In what sense is wrestling fake? Could you give, because for
Oh,
me
yeah,
that
yeah.
that is new, so I'm really interested to learn a
Oh,
little more about that.
so all of the outcomes of the matches are predetermined. Like that's, there's a story. And I think that's something people miss about it. There's these storylines that run in wrestling and they happen in two different ways. There are the spoken stories where, a wrestler gets on the mic and they talk, or, it's filmed from the back and they're in the locker room and they say something. But then there's also stories happening in the ring. And this is why I tell people that wrestling is art. It's performance art because they're telling a story through the way they physically interact with each other. And so if it's like a big feud between two wrestlers, and usually a feud is like a heel, it's a bad guy, and a face, it's a good guy, because this is very simplistic stuff in the way we tell stories here. Usually the dastardly heel will take some underhanded tactics to try and win, and the face is the consummate good guy, and they're not going to take it. They're not going to try and cheat at all. They're going to go the right way. But they're telling you a story of how much disagreement there is, or how much they dislike each other, or maybe they're fighting over something important. Like maybe they don't dislike each other, but they're fighting for the title. So, there's these stories that are happening back and forth. And as you really develop the language of it, you start to be able to follow the stories that are happening in the ring. And then there's the stories happening outside of the ring, but they should relate to each other. But because it's all predetermined, and because you are trying not to hurt the other person, like you absolutely do not want to hurt the opponent. They're your partner, not your rival. People say it's fake, but really they're still jumping off of the top rope and landing on you with their stomach. Like punches aren't pulled. They try and not like make them full force, but you're still punching somebody. You're still throwing them out of the ring. All of these things are still happening. The goal is to not hurt them and not hurt yourself. And to tell the story in the right way and to have the match come to the right outcome, which is ending in a specific way with a specific winner. So people say it's fake because of that, because when we think about boxing, which I don't know if boxing may not really be, the fix might be in unboxing. I've never been able to figure it out, but that doesn't have a predetermined winner. MMA doesn't have a predetermined winner. But that's the big difference, is that wrestling is a story and performance versus like a sport. So people will say it's fake. How can you watch it? It's fake. I'm like, but so is Game of Thrones. Like, it's got script. The outcome is predetermined.
Yeah, in a way it's predetermined. Yeah, and there is a lot of work, and they also try not to hurt each other.
Right.
Although it looks like they're doing, and some people get hurt when we record movies. That does happen as well, unfortunately. So that's in that sense. So okay. So
Sorry
yeah,
for going.
I interrupted you before you wanted
No,
to give that third answer. So
so everybody always asks me who my favorite musician is, and it's Frank Turner.
and why is that?
His music kind of hits me in the right place. He's got that same teen angst, but all grown up, that I've got. And he's in the same situation, like age wise. His music really hits me in the right spot. Especially, he's got this song Photosynthesize, which is basically like, I get it, I'm an adult, I have to be a grown up, but also I refuse to grow up. And it just speaks to me. Also his shows are fun, and he's a really good and decent person, which helps. I don't like to listen to music by people who are not good and decent people.
Yeah, I can. I can. There are people who say, "Okay, I want to, yeah, make a distinction between the artist and the person,"
No, I
um,
can't.
and in one way, I get it. It's typically when you like a person or a music for a long time, and then you hear that, realize that they're not so decent. So I can understand that they try to do that, but at the same time, like, yeah, when I hear about some people like, nah, okay, kind of hoped you were a different person.
Yeah.
That is indeed a different kind of thing. So really wonderful. So instead of just one question, I got three questions. So
Sorry
that's
about that.
no, that's not sorry. I'm not. We're just lucky that there is even more. Let's by now go to already that last question. Who do you think I should ask next? And if I'm correct, you actually had a couple of people that you were thinking
Yeah,
about.
because I didn't know all of the folks that you've done already. So, Jenny Bramble,
And wait, let me bring her on. If I'm correct, this is her.
that is Jenny.
So why should I invite her?
So, Jenny has had this really interesting career, where she was in testing, then she became an engineering manager.
Mm-hmm.
Now she is in another, I don't remember exactly what her title is. It's like VP of QA and customer satisfaction, I think. It's a different title, but she's had these really interesting kind of career steps, and she's just got a really interesting life. She has a kind of a hobby farm-ish.
Wow.
Yeah, so, she's got a lot of interesting things to say about kind of the interconnectedness of things, and, she's really good at relating software kinds of things to real life in other ways. Um, and she's just fun. Like, she's just a fun person, she's fun to interview, and she's a really good friend. Like, she's just a
So
really good friend.
So that is already a wonderful introduction, a wonderful way to indeed, yeah, looking forward. Just looked it up. The title right now is, if I'm, well, the title at the moment that I'm recording is on LinkedIn is Vice President of Product and Quality at this
There you
moment.
go. Yeah, I couldn't
So
remember what it
yeah,
was.
but that's what I wanted to say. It's like a
Yeah.
whole sentence. You almost need an abbreviation, or you need to look it up, just like I did to remember it. Yeah, it's but yeah, that's a little bit the world we're living in. Sometimes people get titles they might not have chosen themselves, but it's yeah, sometimes it's a lot. And but for some companies and some things, it is important. So yeah,
Yeah.
no judgment over there. So let's talk about that next person that you wanted to bring on.
I don't
You
remember the
remember?
other 2 folks
I
that I
I
gave you.
will show you a picture. Do you know who this is?
Oh,
I hope I
yes,
show
that's
it.
Erin. What is Erin's
Exactly.
last name? I just forgot her last name.
Uh, Kreis,
Yes,
something like that.
yes. So Erin, has just moved to, North Carolina, same area as Ashley Huntsberger and Jenny. So
Hmm.
they're all close to each other. But she is now like I think she's the director of QA for Cycle Labs. And so she's got some really interesting things going on in terms of kind of visioning a whole new part of their business. In terms of like, she's basically the first one doing this job, I think. She's starting to really put a lot of their automation together and, really guiding things. So she's got some interesting things going on. Again, really fun person. Um, she's I just think she's a really good time. Um, and and has some great ideas.
But that's yeah, it's lovely. Well, you start introducing a lot about the work part, which,
Mm,
like you noticed, we didn't talk much about it.
yeah.
But it's always interesting to know. For me, at least, this is why I started this,
Mhm.
to have some more background
Yeah.
for the people that well, the interesting part of what I've noticed is that the people who are doing all the interesting jobs typically are also interesting people, and they're doing
Mhm.
stuff that is interesting to discuss about and to talk about. And by now, do you remember the name of the third person?
I can't remember at the moment.
I wasn't sure
Oh,
if this is the
Jessica.
right picture
It
exactly.
is. Yes.
So yeah.
So Jessica Mosley, okay. Jessica and I we are newer like contacts, but every time that I have talked to her or interacted with her, I have been super impressed by how smart she is, how fun she is. She works in a part of QA that I'm really interested in, but I've never gotten a chance to work on, which is in security. And she's just, I personally think she's kind of a rising star. I don't think enough people know about her, so I want more people to know about her.
That's a wonderful way of introducing and to get indeed to know more people about her. Of course, this is the moment we talk about, and we still need to see if she or the other ladies accept the invitation, because it's for me, it is important that people speak out and say, okay, this is why I love this person so much to be on the show. But of course, it stays a personal choice for people if they want to join or not. And if we can sync our agendas, because across the world, that's not always easy. But and sometimes we find moments on, like today on a Saturday, for me afternoon, for you, well, kind of morning, but I think you're already close to afternoon by now. But for me, this is a wonderful time. I really enjoyed our conversation. If Jenna, if people want to reach out to you, what's a good way to reach out to you?
So the best way to get me is to reach out to me on LinkedIn. So
And I hope that's this one, if I'm
it is.
correct.
Yes, that is me. Um, yeah, that's really the best way at this point because, Twitter is basically no more. Um, that
Yeah,
used to be
okay.
what I
Let's
probably used.
let's not talk about that anymore.
Yeah.
That's it. Indeed, it's yeah. I've stopped adding the link, even if people
Yeah.
gave me the link. I stopped adding it because yeah, I think at some point today I did find for someone else, completely unrelated, but that was someone that I tried to get in contact with, and I used Twitter for once, or I DM'd on Twitter, because that was the only way I thought I could reach it. But yeah, I'm still having my account, but it's completely blocked out, and just using it for these kind of things, and also to avoid that no other people can take the handle. That's another way of dealing
It's
with it.
exactly what I did is
So
handle's still there, but nothing's happening.
exactly, that's a
Um,
little bit well. Jenna, really wonderful time. I want to thank you for I want to say this afternoon, but of course morning for you. But spending a Saturday from the future to the past with you, it's been really wonderful with you and your cat, because it
yes.
felt also a little bit like it was the three of us in a conversation in a way. But really, thank you for the time.
Thank you so much. I had a blast. It was really nice talking to you.
Glad to hear this. So
Okay.
thank you. Bye bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you for watching Who's Agile, where the stories of agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other agilists.